Now we are going to enroll an individual into the emergency shelter. And in this case, we're going to enroll someone who does not already have an existing record in Sparrow. So we're going to enroll a brand new individual into the system. Now, when you're doing emergency shelter intakes, you always want to first make sure you have the guest's ID in front of you. It's best to use the ID when entering information into the system just to make sure that the name is spelled correctly, that we don't enter an alias for the individual's name, and just to make sure that the date of birth is correct. So again, make sure you always have the ID out first and that you enter information in the system based on what the ID says, not on what you hear from the individual. Secondly, before going further, you want to make sure you have the guest sign the emergency shelter release form and the HMIS consent form. If they do not sign the emergency shelter release form, they're not permitted to stay in the shelter for the night. And if they do not sign the HMIS consent form, they're still going to be permitted to stay in the shelter. But we just have to do a couple of other things, and there will be more on that in a no HMIS consent video. So before going further, we have the guest's ID out, and they have signed the emergency shelter release and the HMIS consent form. And set those things aside, we are going to scan and attach those later in the process. So now that we've got those things, we are going to check just to see if the individual has a record already in Sparrow. In order to do that, you can do a few different things. You can use the first three letters or more of the individual's first name. You can use the first three letters or more of the individual's last name, or you can use the last four digits of their social security number to search for them. So in this case, we're looking for William Tyndale. If I type in W-I-L, it's going to bring me up a really long list of everybody who has W-I-L in their first or last name. So since William is a really common name and Tyndale is a bit less common, I'm going to search for him using his last name. So when I type in T-Y-N, I notice that there is no other Tyndales. I might try T-E-N just to see if there's been any misspellings of his name, or maybe T-I-N-D. And it looks like, nope, there's no other William Tyndales. So what I'm going to do now is come over to, on the left side of the screen, the People's button, and click People, and click Add New Person. And it's going to bring you to the basic information screen. It says Add New Person there at the top. So we're going to start off with the social security number. In this case, I'm going to give William Tyndale a fake social security number. When you get done entering the numbers, make sure you press Tab in order to go to the next field. You're normally going to always get the full social security number, so you'll select full social security number reported. But in the event that you don't, for whatever reason, just make sure to select the option that makes the most sense. His first name is William. In this case, he does not have a middle name, but if he did, you'd make sure to add the middle name there. Do not skip that if they have it. And again, take that name straight from the ID. And in this case, he's just William Tyndale. I got his entire name, so I'll select full name reported. And when we come to the date of birth, you have to enter the date of birth in a 2-digit / 2-digit / 4-digit format. So in this case, William Tyndale was born in April 9th, 1991. So I put that in as 04-09-1991. Now when I hit Tab from here, notice it is automatically going to fill in his age. And you can see that there. And since I got, again, his full date of birth right off of his ID, I select full date of birth reported, and gender, male. And Before I go further, you'll notice that there's a code field here at the bottom. You're always going to leave that field blank. When you click next, the system will automatically assign a code to that individual to differentiate his records from the others. So you don't have to enter anything here. You click next and the system simply gives him his number. So we're done here. Let's just click next. And now it's going to bring you to the program enrollment screen. So in this case, since the individual is looking to stay in the emergency shelter, we're going to select emergency shelter with an emergency in status. He is a shelter guest and he's staying for today. Now, the date is always in yellow, so obviously today is December 19th, but we're going to pretend for today like today's date is actually the 1st for the purposes of this video. So today is December 1st, and that's when we're going to enroll William Tyndale. So now let's get him into the shelter. We click next when we're done. And now it's going to bring us to the sub-programs screen. So here we're just going to play with this field here. And in this drop box, you'll see that there are a couple of options. Important, you're always going to enroll the individual in the emergency shelter MATS subprogram. Every single time, click this one. Now, if the individual is a park bench guest, then you'll also enroll them in the park bench subprogram. In this case, we're going to say Mr. Tyndale is not, so we're just going to enroll him in the emergency shelter MAT subprogram. Now, if you forget to enroll him in the subprogram, you will not be able to assign him a mat for the night. So if you don't complete this step properly here, there is another way around it, and you can see that in the enroll an individual in a subprogram only video. So for now, we're going to pretend like we did it right, because we are, and when you're done, click next. Now we have gotten the individual enrolled in the emergency shelter. So we're going to now go and complete the emergency shelter intake form. So you click on ES intake. You have to make sure you put the date of today in, the intake date. So again, we're pretending like today's the 1st of December. Now when you're completing the emergency shelter intake form, it is very important to make sure that you do not skip over any of these fields in the intake process. There are times when you may want to leave a field blank simply because there is no information to be gathered. And for example, this person may not have any contact information, so you will leave that field blank on the form, but make sure you at least ask them if they have contact information. Do not skip over any fields in the intake process. Now, in this case, of course, we actually are going to skip over a bunch of fields. It's just a training video, so I'm not going to complete the entire form. For later reporting videos, I am going to select yes here on veteran. And then you're going to go through and answer all of the questions on the form during the intake process. And when you're all done, you're going to select either yes for admitted or no for not admitted. Now, if the individual is not admitted into the emergency shelter, there are other processes that need to be followed through. And for more on that, see the denied admission into emergency shelter video. In this case, we're going to say that William Tyndale is admitted into the shelter. And very important, when you are all done there, make sure you click save. So now the emergency shelter intake form is completed and has been saved, but we are not done with the intake forms. Now we have to complete the HMIS forms. So in order to do that, make sure you go to the statuses list tab here. Click on statuses list. And to complete the HMIS entry form, you're going to click on the most recent status and the far right icon, which is the HMIS entry and exit form. So click on that. And in this case, it's going to be an entry form that we're going to complete since he's coming into the shelter. Again, you would never want to skip over any of these questions during the intake process, although I am now, and I'm just going to just kind of select a couple of options just to throw some things in there, and then click Save. For more on how to fill out this form, see the HMIS entry and exit form video. When you're done, click Save. Then you'll go to the demographic data form and fill in these fields. I'm only going to do 3, and you don't have to complete all of them. Notice that it goes up to 5 races. Oftentimes you may only get 1 or 2 races, especially after you've gathered information on ethnicity. So just get as many as the individual answers, and no more than that is necessary. So, and once you've completed these, you click Save. Now, very important here, you do not complete more than these top 2 forms, the entry form and the demographic data form. The income all the way down through release of information forms, we do not complete in Sparrow. It's only the top 2, the entry form and the demographic data form. So when you're done with those, click the X on the form there, and you're out. And now you have completed the emergency shelter intake form, and you have also completed the HMIS entry form. Now, if the individual's going to be staying for the night, we have to, of course, assign them a mat. So just to make sure that we have everything on the page, let's click refresh, or sometimes it says reload. Oftentimes there's times when you'll see that there are things missing from the page in Sparrow that you think should be there, and normally the fix for that is just to click refresh. So if you're wondering why something's missing, click refresh, and oftentimes it comes back up. So now we're going to go over to the beds assignment tab, and we're going to assign them a mat for the night. So here we're going to select emergency shelter mats for the program. The only option, and again, and for select room, the only option again will be mat. And we're going to put them in for today. Remember, we're pretending like today is December 1st. And it'll automatically fill in the next field because the emergency shelter mats are 1-night stays. So the next field will automatically get filled in. And then you just select any open mat. So if they're grayed out, that means the mat is not open. And if they're blue, that means the mat is available for the night. So we'll just select the next available one, number 48, and Mr. Tyndale is sleeping in mat 48 for the night. Now from here, the final thing that you'll have to do is scan and attach the emergency shelter release form, the HMIS consent form, and a copy of the individual's ID, those documents that we set to the side earlier in the process. So from here you'll pick up, go and scan and attach those documents to the individual's file, and the intake process at that point will be complete. So for more on how to scan and attach documents to an individual's file in Sparrow, see the Scan and Attach Documents training video. At this point, we are going to say that the documents on the Attachments tab have been scanned in and attached. You have now successfully enrolled a new individual into the emergency shelter.